Hello there, I am Kurt Esslinger. I'm a minister of Word and Sacrament in the PCUSA, and I am called to campus ministry at the University of Illinois in Chicago, where I am the director of Agape House Christian Ministry, which is an ecumenical campus ministry. I grew up Presbyterian. I grew up in West Texas, so I was a West Texan Presbyterian in the Bible Belt. And I was, when I was growing up there, I was sort of strange, a little different from most kids in the crowd, and it was actually a Presbyterian youth group that sort of brought me in and nurtured me and showed me love for who I was, not for who they wanted me to be. But where other groups might say, we like you, but those things that make you strange, well, we're not sure about that. This group said those things that make you strange, the ways that you're different are actually what's most beautiful about you, are actually the greatest gifts God has given you. And I'd say that has sort of shaped my ministry and the kind of minister that I am today. One thing that I'm most thankful for about the PCUSA is actually the sort of democratic structure we have, the way that we have this sort of ability to bring lots of different people together into our power structures, into our decision making, that we have this sort of structure that allows for other voices to be heard. Maybe it's not always utilized, but there's this sort of space for, if taken advantage of, the space for voices who are otherwise unnoticed or silenced or left out, that they have this place at the table, this way to be at the table, this way to share their voice, and this way to take part in and realize the power they have in the decision-making process that goes on in this church. An interesting thing about that is that it also means that there may be groups at that same table, people who I may completely disagree with, who also have a voice. People whose interpretation of the Bible I think may be misguided and wrong, and yet they have vote, and I am still to be there in community with them. So it's I think that's a great thing. I could perhaps easily say that I'm most disappointed in the sort of dwindling support for campus ministry in the church, but I won't go there, not yet anyway. But I'd say what I'm most disappointed with in the church is similar to what I was talking about earlier, that we have all these voices at the table, but that there are some voices who say that when they don't have their way anymore, when the Spirit is moving among a sort of different majority, that then all of a sudden they want out of the table, that they're done with this sort of community. And that's, like, to me, that's not how family works. I mean, I may have vehement disagreements with, say, my father, and I actually do have them, and yet I don't leave the family. I'm still part of I still stick with the family. I still go home for Christmas and Thanksgiving and share food and talk. Sometimes I try to avoid those conversations, but I stick with the family even when now I don't necessarily continue their mistakes or continue those things that they're doing wrong. But I stay in that community, and I stick together, and I stay in relationship. So it's really disappointing when I see people who would rather take hold on to the way the Spirit moved in the past and take it with them into severing a relationship. That's That's sad to me. God is calling the church to be a community, a catalyst for people to become involved in and aware of the things that are happening in their community, in their neighborhood, their city, their state, their nation, all over the U.S. And in other countries as well. Organizing people and connecting their faith in God to the way God calls us to help each other out, not to be islands of individuals just taking care of number one, but helping each other out, bringing voices, people whose perspectives are generally left out, into the decision making, helping them realize their power to affect how this world works. I think that's the direction that this church could head in, and all the while galvanized by the Spirit. One ministry that I think people should pray for today is, clearly campus ministry. It's interesting the way the trend is going, that in general campus ministries all over the country, all spanning all denominations, their funding is becoming decentralized. And often what that means is that they get no more funding, that they have no more support. And so, funding being decentralized isn't necessarily, the end of the world. It doesn't have to be. But for it not to be the end of these ministries is that it has to come from somewhere else. So like individual congregations who were once vicariously funding campus ministries through denominational structures. Well, if there's not this structure that's bringing all these funds and support together, and making it easier for large groups of people to pool money and have that support, well, individual congregations have to step in, and they have to be there to provide some sort of sustainable support. Because if they don't, who will? So pray that support comes from somewhere, and pray that it comes from you.